Admiral Kathy West stood at the viewport of Luna Command, her eyes fixed on the blue marble of Earth hanging in the darkness. 30 years of human membership in the Galactic Concord had brought technological advances, but at a steep price. Humanity was treated as little more than clever pets by the 17 alien species that controlled galactic politics. The communication panel chimed. Admiral Ambassador Porter is requesting an emergency meeting. He says it's about Europa. Kathy's stomach tightened. The research outpost on Europa had gone silent 12 hours ago. Tell him I'll be right there. In the conference room, Ambassador Greg Porter's hologram paced back and forth. His normally neat appearance was disheveled, his eyes red from lack of sleep. They destroyed it, he said without preamble. The Zalari wiped out the entire Europa station. All 57 researchers are dead. Kathy sank into her chair. On what grounds? They claim we violated territorial agreements by mining too deep into Europa's ice. Greg's voice shook with anger. I just came from the Concord Assembly. I showed them the evidence that we were operating within our rights. They dismissed it. The Vrex representative actually laughed. General Nicole Garcia entered the room, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. We've confirmed the destruction. Zalari warships used their main cannons. It wasn't an accident. What did the Concord say? Kathy asked. Greg's hologram flickered as he slammed his fist on a desk billions of miles away. The Mercari expressed regret over the loss of life. The others didn't even bother with that much. The Zalari ambassador said, and I quote, "Humans should be grateful we allow them any presence beyond their homeworld." Kathy had heard enough. This can't continue. We've played by their rules for 30 years. We've let them restrict our technology, limit our expansion, and take our resources. And now they're killing our people. What choice do we have? Greg asked. The Zalari fleet alone outguns our entire defense force 20-1. A small smile formed on Kathy's lips. That's what they think. She tapped her comm. Dr. Murphy, join us, please. Dr. Alan Murphy entered a few minutes later. He was tall and thin with kind eyes that belied his genius intellect. He carried a small data device in his hand. Show them, Kathy said. Alan connected his device to the display table. A hologram of a sleek starship appeared, unlike any vessel in the human fleet. Its hull gleamed with a strange blue-black metal that seemed to absorb light. What am I looking at? Greg asked. The future, Alan said. 7 of them, to be exact. We call it the Supernova fleet. Impossible, Greg whispered. The Concord monitors, all our shipyards. Alan smiled. Not the ones hidden inside asteroids in the Kuiper Belt. We've been building them for 5 years. How? General Garcia leaned forward. The Concord restricts our drive technology. Our fastest ships are half the speed of even the Mercari freighters. Because we don't use conventional drives. Alan expanded the hologram to show the ship's internal systems. We developed something new, the Supernova drive. Based on alien tech? Greg asked. Alan shook his head. Inspired by it, but developed in a completely different direction. The aliens think in terms of manipulating existing energy. We found a way to create our own. Explain, Kathy said. We can generate artificial microsingularities, tiny black holes, and harness their energy before they collapse. Alan's eyes gleamed with pride. The power output is beyond anything the Concord races have developed, and they never saw it coming because they believe we're barely able to understand their superior technology. Greg's mouth hung open. If the Concord finds out, they'll do what? Kathy stood up. Attack us? They're already doing that. The Zalari just destroyed Europa Station, and the Concord did nothing. It's time we showed them that humans aren't as helpless as they think. The ships are ready? General Garcia asked. Alan nodded. The prototypes are fully operational. We disguised them as mining vessels. The crews have been training in virtual simulations for 2 years. Kathy walked around the table examining the hologram. Weapons? The same technology that powers the drives can be channeled as weapons. Energy beams that can cut through any Known shielding technology. Alan manipulated the display to show the weapon systems. Plus, the drive creates unique gravitation fields that can disrupt enemy targeting systems. Greg looked worried. This is a major escalation. The Conquered will see this as a threat to their power. Good, Kathy said. They should. For too long, they've treated us like children. Dangerous when provoked, but easy to control. They need to understand that humans have teeth. What's your plan, Admiral? General Garcia asked. First, we accelerate completion of the other ships. There are 16 more in various stages of construction. Kathy turned to Alan. How long until they're ready? 3 months for the next 5. The rest will take longer. Then we have 3 months to prepare. Kathy's voice was firm. Greg, return to the Conquered. Keep playing the diplomatic game, buy us time. And when the ships are ready? Greg asked. Then we change the rules of the game. Kathy stared at the hologram of the sleek, deadly vessel. The Zilari are getting bolder. Intelligence suggests they're planning more aggressive moves against our outer colonies. When they make their next big push, they'll find something they weren't expecting. Alan shut down the hologram. There's one more thing you should know. The Supernova drive has another capability we didn't anticipate. During testing, we discovered it can briefly phase the ships out of normal space-time. Meaning? General Garcia asked. Meaning they can become virtually invisible and untargetable for short periods. We're still exploring the full implications. Kathy looked at each person in the room. What we discuss here doesn't leave this room. The success of this plan depends on complete surprise. The aliens think they know what humans are capable of, Alan said quietly. They've been studying us for 30 years, watching us build ships with the technology they permit. They think they have us figured out. That's their mistake, Kathy said. They see what they expect to see, a young species playing with toys given to us by our betters. She smiled grimly. They have no idea what we've been doing on our own. Greg still looked uncertain. And if this leads to war? Kathy's expression hardened. They destroyed Europa. They killed our people. As far as I'm concerned, the war has already begun. They just don't know it yet. As the meeting ended, Kathy returned to the viewport. Earth still hung in the blackness, beautiful and vulnerable. For 30 years, humanity had been at the mercy of alien races who saw them as barely civilized newcomers. That was about to change. The Supernova fleet was coming, and no one was ready. 3 months passed quickly. Captain Frank Delgado stood on the bridge of the SNV Defiance, the flagship of humanity's secret fleet. Hidden in the shadow of a large asteroid, the sleek vessel hummed with power. The supernova drive at its core pulsed with blue-white energy that no alien race had ever seen. "Status report," Frank called out to his crew. Lieutenant Olivia Jackson looked up from her weapons console. "All systems green, Captain. Weapons primed and ready." Chief Engineer Samuel Kim's voice came through the comm system. "Drive is stable. At 98% capacity. She's purring like a kitten." Frank nodded with satisfaction. The past 3 months had been intense. 7 ships completed, crews trained, and systems tested, all while keeping the fleet hidden from alien eyes. Communications Officer Erica Mills turned from her station. "Captain, priority message from Luna Command. Admiral West authorizes sunburst. Protocol. The Zilari fleet has entered Mars orbit." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The moment they had trained for had arrived. Frank took a deep breath. "Send acknowledgement. Inform the fleet. We move in 15 minutes." On his personal screen, Frank reviewed the situation. 30 Zilari warships had entered the Mars orbital zone. Their message to Earth had been clear: surrender all Mars colonies, or they would be destroyed. The Zilari believed Earth had no choice but to give in. They were wrong. "All hands to battle stations," Frank ordered. "Prepare for drive activation." Throughout the massive ship, crew members moved with purpose. They were the best Earth had to offer, selected in secret and trained away from prying eyes. Many had lost friends or family to alien restrictions and arrogance over the years. Olivia looked up from her console. "Captain, I'm detecting civilian transports fleeing from the Mars colonies. The Zilari vessels are moving to intercept them. Frank's jaw tightened. They're going to make examples of them. Not on my watch. Fleet command to all Supernova vessels. Execute Formation Alpha. Target only military vessels. Protect the civilian ships at all costs. The 7 hidden ships powered up their drives simultaneously. The strange blue-black hulls seemed to absorb the light around them as they moved out from their hiding places. Maximum speed on my mark, Frank said. 3, 2, 1 mark. The universe seemed to blur around them. The supernova drive engaged, and the ship leaped forward at impossible speed. Behind them, the other 6 vessels followed in tight formation. In Mars orbit, the Zilari commander was preparing to fire on the first civilian transport when his sensor officer shouted in alarm. Unknown vessels approaching. 7 of them. Speed. Impossible. The supernova fleet dropped out of their high-speed run directly in front of the Zilari formation. The massive alien warships dwarfed the human vessels, but size wasn't everything. Open a channel to the Zilari flagship, Frank ordered. Erica nodded. Channel open, sir. Attention Zilari vessels. This is Captain Frank Delgado of the Earth vessel, Defiance. You are in violation of Mars territorial space. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The response was quick and dismissive. The Zilari commander's translator conveyed his sneering tone perfectly. Human vessel, your threat is meaningless. Your planet has no warships capable of challenging us. Surrender now or be destroyed along with the colonists. Frank smiled grimly. I was hoping you'd say that. All vessels execute attack pattern Omega. Show them what the supernova fleet can do. The 7 human ships moved with coordinated precision. That shocked the Zilari. They had never seen Earth vessels move so fast or with such agility. Weapons free, Frank ordered. Target their primary weapon systems first. Olivia's hands danced across her console. Targeting solution locked, firing. The Defiance's main weapons powered up. Instead of conventional energy beams, they fired concentrated streams of exotic particles generated by the supernova drive. The blue-white beams struck the lead Zilari warship and passed through its shields as if they weren't there. The massive, alien vessel shuddered as its main gun exploded. Around it, the other supernova ships engaged their targets with the same devastating effect. Their shields can't stop our weapons, Olivia reported with a grim smile. They have no defense against the particle streams. Samuel's voice came over the comm. Captain, I'm detecting their ships attempting to scan our drive signatures. They're trying to figure out what we're using. Let them look, Frank said. They won't understand what they're seeing. 3 Zilari ships moved to surround the Defiance. Their weapons fired, energy beams lancing toward the human vessel. Evasive maneuvers, Frank ordered calmly. Activate phase shift. The Defiance shimmered and seemed to become partly transparent. The Zilari weapons passed harmlessly through the space where the ship had been. Phase shift holding, Samuel reported. We can maintain this state for 45 seconds before needing to recharge. Frank nodded. More than enough time. Lieutenant Jackson, target all 3 vessels. Sequential firing pattern. Olivia fired the weapons in rapid succession. Each Zilari ship took critical damage, their massive hulls breached by the unprecedented human technology. Throughout the battle zone, the story was the same. The human ships moved with impossible speed, phased out of normal space to avoid damage, and fired weapons that ignored alien shields. The Zilari fleet, once so confident in their superiority, found themselves outmatched by technology they couldn't understand. In 15 minutes, 23 Zilari warships had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining 7 broke formation and fled, jumping to faster-than-light travel as soon as they cleared Mars' gravity well. Pursuit? Olivia asked, her finger hovering over the weapons control. Frank shook his head. No, let them go. Let them tell the others what happened here. All civilian transports are safe, Erica reported. No casualties among the colonists. Frank stood from his command chair. Open a channel to all frequencies. Make sure the Concord receives this. Erica nodded. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting system-wide. Frank looked directly at the camera. This is Captain Frank Delgado of the Earth vessel Defiance, commander of the Supernova fleet. For 30 years, humanity has endured restrictions, exploitation, and aggression from the Galactic Concord. Those days are over. We gave you peace. You gave us subjugation. The terms have changed. He paused, letting his words sink in. To any Concord vessels thinking of entering Earth space, be aware that the Zilari fleet that came to destroy our Mars colonies no longer exists. We are not seeking war, but we will no longer tolerate threats to our people or our worlds. Earth is now a sovereign power, equal to any in the galaxy. Remember what happened here today before you test our resolve again. Frank ended the transmission and turned to his crew. Their faces showed pride, mixed with the solemn understanding of what they had just done. There was no going back now. Set course for Earth, he ordered. It's time the world knew what we've accomplished. As the Defiance turned toward home, its strange blue-black hull gleaming in the sunlight, Frank knew that across the galaxy, alarm bells were ringing. The humans had been dismissed for too long. That mistake would not be made again. News of the Mars battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. 1 week later, Ambassador Greg Porter stood in the Great Hall of the Concord Assembly. The circular chamber was filled with representatives from the 17 alien species that had ruled galactic politics for centuries. Today, they looked at the human ambassador with new eyes. The actions of humanity are an outrage, the Zilari ambassador hissed through his translator. His scaled skin had turned a dark purple with anger. They hid military technology from the Concord. They destroyed 23 of our finest warships without provocation. Greg kept his face neutral despite his satisfaction. Without provocation? Your ships were preparing to fire on civilian transports. You had already destroyed our Europa research station, killing 57 scientists. A minor violation of territorial agreements, the Zilari dismissed. Which brings us to the real issue, Greg continued. For 30 years, humanity has been treated as a lesser species. Our technology has been restricted. Our expansion has been limited. Our resources have been taken. That ends today. The chamber erupted in angry shouts and protests. The Vrex representative, an insectoid being nearly 8 feet tall, clicked, his mandibles furiously. Humans have always been volatile and dangerous. This proves we should have contained them on their homeworld. The Mercari representative, a slender blue-skinned humanoid, raised her hand for silence. Perhaps we should consider that our treatment of humans has contributed to this situation. They clearly felt they had no choice but to develop these weapons in secret. Back on Earth, Admiral Kathy West stood in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Holographic displays showed the positions of 16 more supernova vessels that had been hidden in plain sight, disguised as orbital platforms and asteroid mining stations. Activation sequences complete on all vessels, a technician reported. The fleet is now at 23 ships and growing. Kathy nodded in satisfaction. Any reaction from the Zilari? Intelligence Officer Lisa Young approached with a data pad. Our long-range sensors show increased activity at their military bases. They're gathering their forces, Admiral, and not just the Zilari. 7 species have moved their fleets to staging positions. And the others? Kathy asked. 5 species led by the Mercari are showing signs they might be open to alliance. The remaining 5 have declared neutrality. Lisa hesitated. There's something else you should see. She handed the data pad to Kathy. We managed to decode some of their secure transmissions from before the Mars incident. This was a conversation between the Zilari High Commander and the Vrex Queen. Kathy read the transcript, her face hardening with each line. They were planning to colonize Earth, to relocate humans to designated habitation zones once they had extracted sufficient resources. Yes, Admiral. They never saw us as equals. We were just temporary caretakers of a world they intended to take. Kathy handed back the pad. Send this to Ambassador Porter immediately. Let the whole Concord see what their leading members were planning. In another part of the complex, Dr. Paul Bennett, a xenobiologist specializing in Concord species psychology, was meeting with Captain Frank Delgado. The Vrex will never accept humans as equals, Paul explained. pointing to a holographic display of the insectoid species. It's not just politics, it's biological. Their entire society is built on dominance, hierarchies. They physically cannot conceive of a species they once dominated becoming their equal. Frank frowned. And the others? The Mercari are most likely to ally with us. They've always been more moderate in the Concord, and they have their own grievances. With the Zalari, the Gora and Lintari will follow the Mercari's lead. Paul switched the display to show other alien physiologies. The key is to show strength without appearing to be a threat to those who might be our allies. That's a fine line to walk, Frank replied. It is. But there's an opportunity here. The Concord has never been as unified as they pretend. There have always been factions and rivalries. Your victory at Mars has brought those to the surface. In orbit above Earth, 3 supernova ships prepared for a mission that would shake the galaxy even further. Captain Frank Delgado stood on the bridge of the Defiance reviewing the plan one final time. All vessels confirm ready status, Communications Officer Erica Mills reported. Frank nodded. Begin synchronized jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. The 3 ships activated their supernova drives simultaneously. Space seemed to twist around them and then they were gone, moving faster than any human vessel had ever traveled before. In the Concord assembly, Greg Porter was in the middle of a heated debate when an aide rushed to his side, whispering urgently in his ear. Greg's eyes widened. He looked up at the assembly with a small smile. I believe we're about to receive some interesting news. Within minutes, the chamber erupted in chaos as reports came in from across Concord space. 3 human vessels had appeared simultaneously at key Concord outposts, one at the Zalari homeworld, one at the main Vrex military base, and one at the Concord's central shipyards. At each location, the human ships had performed a brief but impressive display of their capabilities before disappearing again. They had penetrated the heart of Concord space with ease, demonstrating that nowhere was beyond their reach. The Mercari ambassador approached Greg during the confusion. Your ships are impressive, she said quietly. My government wishes to open private discussions about a possible alliance. I would welcome that, Greg replied. The Concord is fracturing, she continued. The Zalari are forming what they call a coalition to oppose humanity. 7 species have joined them so far. And the Mercari? We have no wish to be caught in a war between the Zalari and your supernova fleet, especially when we see which way the wind is blowing. She glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. Your ships visited our colony on Mercaris 4. They could have caused great damage. Instead, they merely demonstrated their presence and left. My people see this as a sign that humans can be reasoned with. Back on Earth, Kathy received the reports of the successful missions with satisfaction. The plan was working. The shows of force at key locations had sent a clear message. Humanity could strike anywhere in conquered space at will. Admiral, Lisa Young called from her station. We're detecting multiple fleet movements. The Zalari coalition is mobilizing. Kathy studied the holographic display showing the positions of alien fleets. The 7 hostile species were gathering their forces. The numbers were staggering, over 300 warships. So it begins, Kathy said quietly. They still think they can crush us with numbers. Can they? Lisa asked. Kathy's expression was grim but determined. They can try, but the supernova fleet was built for exactly this moment, and they have no idea what we're truly capable of. On the diplomatic front, Ambassador Porter had succeeded in forming an alliance with 5 species led by the Mercari. The galaxy was dividing into 3 camps: the Zalari coalition bent on humanity's destruction, the Human Mercari Alliance, and those trying to remain neutral. The greatest conflict in galactic history was about to begin, and at its center was a species that only months ago had been considered a minor player in cosmic politics. Humanity had changed the game, and no one, not even humans themselves, knew exactly how it would end. 2 months had passed since the battle at Mars. The Zalari coalition had gathered a massive armada of over 300 warships. They moved slowly but steadily toward the Sol system, their intent clear: to crush humanity's rebellion and restore the old order. In the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Nicole Garcia studied the holographic display showing the approaching enemy fleet. Around the table stood Earth's military leaders, their faces grim. "They'll reach Sol in 2 weeks at their current speed," Nicole said. "Their numbers are greater than we anticipated." Admiral Kathy West nodded. "They think those numbers will overwhelm us. They still don't understand what they're facing." "Even with our technology, 300 ships is a lot to handle," Nicole replied. "We have 32 Supernova vessels operational now. The next batch won't be ready for another month." Kathy smiled. "Then we don't wait for them to come to us. We take the fight to them." She tapped a control, and the hologram shifted to show a new star system. Zolaris Prime, their homeworld. More importantly, the location of their primary shipyards where they're building even more vessels to use against us. Captain Frank Delgado leaned forward. "A preemptive strike?" "Exactly," Kathy confirmed. "While their main fleet heads to Sol, we hit them where they're vulnerable. General Garcia will coordinate the operation. Captain Delgado will lead the strike force." Nicole outlined the plan. 12 Supernova ships would jump directly to Zolaris Prime. Their mission: destroy the shipyards and return to Sol before the main Zolari fleet could respond. "This is not just about destroying their ships," Kathy emphasized. "This is about showing them that nowhere is safe. Even their homeworld is within our reach." Later that day, Frank met with his crew aboard the Defiance. Lieutenant Olivia Jackson had developed new tactical applications for the Supernova technology. "We've found a way to synchronize the phase shifts between multiple vessels," Olivia explained, showing a simulation on the tactical display. "When ships phase in and out of normal space in the right pattern, they create destructive interference that can disable enemy systems without destroying the ships." "Non-lethal options," Frank nodded. "Good. We don't need to kill every alien we encounter." Chief Engineer Samuel Kim had his own breakthrough to share. "We can use the drive to generate localized gravity wells," he demonstrated with another simulation. "It pulls enemy vessels off course and disrupts their formations. Like throwing stones in a pond to create ripples that interfere with each other." Frank watched the simulation with approval. "Creative thinking, both of you. We'll need every advantage we can get." Meanwhile, in his laboratory, Dr. Alan Murphy worked frantically to complete his latest project. The Nova Disruptor was a strategic weapon unlike anything humans had built before. It could destabilize a star's fusion processes, causing massive solar flares. These flares wouldn't harm planets, but their electromagnetic pulses could disable all technology in a system. Alan hoped they would never need to use it, but he also knew that humanity needed every possible edge against the overwhelming numbers they faced. The day of the mission arrived. The 12 ships of the strike force gathered in high Earth orbit, their strange blue-black hulls absorbing sunlight. On the bridge of the Defiance, Frank addressed his crew. "Today we take the fight to the enemy. Remember, our goal is their shipyards, not civilian targets. We show strength, but also restraint. That's what separates us from them." The ships activated their supernova drives simultaneously. Space bent around them, and they vanished from Earth orbit. In the Zolari home system, alarm spread quickly as sensors detected the approaching human fleet. The Zolari had left substantial defenses around their homeworld, 50 warships that were thought to be more than enough to protect against any threat. They weren't ready for what came next. The human ships emerged from their faster-than-light, jumped directly among the Zolari defense fleet. Before the aliens could react, the supernova vessels began to phase in and out of normal space in precise patterns. On the Defiance, Olivia coordinated the attack. Phase shift synchronization at 98%, interference pattern forming. Throughout the Zolari fleet, systems began to fail. Weapons went offline, engines shut down, communication systems fell silent. The mighty warships drifted helplessly in space. Frank gave the order. Target the shipyards only. Minimal force against the disabled vessels. The The human ships fired their exotic particle weapons at the massive orbital structures where new Zalari warships were under construction. The beams sliced through defensive shields and cut the shipyards apart with surgical precision. Chief Engineer Kim deployed his gravity well tactic, creating spatial distortions that pulled the drifting Zalari ships away from the combat zone and into stable orbits where they could cause no harm. First shipyard complex destroyed, Olivia reported, moving to the second target. On Zalaris Prime, the alien leaders watched in horror as their mighty defenses proved useless against the human technology. A hasty message was sent to the main fleet heading toward Sol, begging them to return and defend the homeworld. The human attack was devastating, but controlled. In just over an hour, all 5 shipyard complexes had been destroyed. Dozens of partially constructed warships were now floating debris. Yet the human fleet had not fired a single shot at the planet itself or its civilian stations. All targets neutralized, Olivia reported. Phase shift interference pattern holding. Zalari fleet remains disabled. Frank nodded. Open a channel to the Zalari Command Center. When the connection was established, Frank spoke clearly and calmly. This is Captain Frank Delgado of the Earth vessel Defiance. Your shipyards are destroyed. Your defense fleet is disabled but not destroyed. We could have done much worse. He paused to let that sink in. We did not target civilian areas. We did not attack your planet. Remember this restraint when you consider your next move against Earth. Your main fleet is too far away to help you now, but we could return anytime we choose. With that message delivered, Frank gave the order to return home. All ships prepare for synchronized jump back to Sol. The 12 Supernova vessels disappeared as quickly as they had come, leaving behind a shocked and humiliated Zalari civilization. During the return journey, Communications Officer Erica Mills received an encrypted transmission from Earth. Captain, Intelligence Officer Young has discovered something alarming. The Zalari Coalition is developing biological weapons designed specifically to target the human genome. Frank's expression darkened. They're getting desperate. Forward this to Admiral West immediately. We need to prepare countermeasures. As the strike force neared Earth, they received more news. The Mirkari and their allies had arrived in the Sol system with a fleet of their own, not to attack, but to stand with humanity against the approaching Zalari coalition. It seems our show of strength combined with our restraint has impressed them, Frank observed. Back at Luna Command, Admiral West welcomed the returning strike force with pride. Well done, Captain. The destruction of their shipyards has thrown the Zalari coalition into disarray. Their main fleet has slowed its advance while they reassess. But they're still coming, Frank noted. Yes, Kathy agreed. But now we've bought time for our allies to arrive, and for Dr. Murphy to complete the Nova Disruptor. The real battle is still ahead, but today you've given us a fighting chance. As the human and Mirkari fleets prepared for the coming conflict, one thing was clear. The galaxy was entering a new era. The old power structures were crumbling, and humanity, once dismissed as a primitive newcomer, now stood at the center of galactic events. The stage was set for the greatest space battle in galactic history. The day of the final confrontation arrived. Near the orbit of Jupiter, the combined human Mirkari fleet faced the approaching Zalari coalition armada. Despite the losses at their shipyards, the coalition still fielded over 200 warships. The human Mirkari alliance had just 70 vessels, 35 supernova ships and 35 Mirkari craft. Admiral Kathy West stood on the bridge of the SNV Guardian, the newest and largest of the supernova vessels. Around her, the command crew worked with focused intensity. All ships report ready, Admiral, the communications officer said. Kathy nodded. Open a channel to Captain Delgado. Frank's face appeared on the main screen. He commanded a special squadron of 7 supernova ships that had been equipped with the latest modifications. Captain, your squadron will target their command vessels, Kathy ordered. Disable rather than destroy when possible. Understood, Admiral, Frank replied. My ships are ready. Kathy then spoke with Ambassador Greg Porter, who had helped equip several Mirkari vessels with supernova technology. The Mirkari captains understand the plan, Greg assured her. Their ships know to stay in the defensive formation until the signal. Dr. Alan Murphy stood quietly at a console at the back of the bridge. The Nova disruptor was ready, but everyone hoped they wouldn't need to use it. Kathy addressed the entire fleet. This battle isn't just for Earth. It's for a new way forward, one where all species stand as equals. Fight well, but remember who we are. Humanity doesn't need to become monsters to defeat monsters. The Coalition fleet approached in a massive formation, designed to overwhelm with sheer numbers. They clearly believed that even with superior technology, the humans couldn't possibly counter so many ships at once. They still don't understand, Kathy said quietly. Begin the operation. Communications Officer Erica Mills, who had transferred to the Guardian for this mission, implemented her innovative tactic. All 35 Supernova ships began phase shifting in a carefully calculated pattern. Phase network established, Erica reported. We're operating outside normal space. This created a communication system that existed partially outside regular spacetime. The human Mercari fleet could now coordinate perfectly, while the Coalition's communications were jammed. First wave, advance, Kathy ordered. Captain Delgado led his squadron directly toward the center of the Coalition formation. The Zalari commander, expecting the humans to play it safe, was caught off guard by the aggressive move. Lieutenant Olivia Jackson, now aboard the Defiance as Frank's tactical officer, deployed the synchronized phase shift interference. Dozens of Coalition ships suddenly found their weapons and engines disabled. Chief Engineer Samuel Kim's gravity wells pulled Coalition vessels out of formation, creating gaps that the Mercari ships exploited with precision attacks. For the first hour, the battle went exactly as planned. Despite being outnumbered, the human Mercari fleet fought with superior coordination and technology. Dozens of Coalition ships were disabled or destroyed, while the Alliance suffered only minor damage. Then everything changed. Admiral! Erica's voice was urgent. Sensors are detecting a second Coalition fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel near Earth. The tactical display showed 50 Coalition warships appearing in orbit around humanity's homeworld. It was a desperate gambit, a separate fleet that had taken a longer route to strike directly at Earth while the main battle raged near Jupiter. Kathy faced an impossible choice: split her forces and risk losing both battles, or continue the fight at Jupiter while Earth remained vulnerable. How did they get past our sensor network? She demanded. They used a new kind of stealth technology, an analyst reported, possibly adapted after studying our phase-shifting capabilities. Kathy's mind raced through options. The Earth defense. Grid was strong but couldn't withstand 50 warships. If she sent ships back to defend Earth, her position at Jupiter would collapse. Dr. Murphy approached her. Admiral, we have one other option. The Nova disruptor. On Earth? Kathy asked, horrified. The electromagnetic pulse would disable everything on the planet. Not Earth, Murphy clarified. Jupiter. Understanding dawned on Kathy's face. Is that possible? Jupiter isn't a star, but it's large enough that the disruptor can temporarily excite its atmosphere to create a massive electromagnetic pulse. It would disable both fleets near Jupiter, but our ships can recover faster because we designed the weapon. Kathy weighed the decision. And Earth? The Earth fleet would be unaffected by the pulse. We could dispatch 10 ships immediately to defend the planet while the Coalition fleet here is disabled. After a moment of consideration, Kathy gave the order. Do it, and send the fastest ships back to Earth. Dr. Murphy activated the Nova disruptor. The device fired a specialized beam into Jupiter's atmosphere. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the gas giant began to glow brighter and brighter, almost like a miniature star. A massive electromagnetic wave spread outward from Jupiter, washing over both fleets. Ships on both sides lost power as the pulse overwhelmed their systems. All vessels, initiate emergency recovery protocols, Kathy ordered through backup communications. As planned, the Supernova ships began to restore their systems much faster than the Coalition vessels. Within minutes, 10 of the fastest human ships were speeding toward Earth, while the others regained enough function to secure the disabled Coalition fleet. The demonstration of power was unmistakable. Humans could have destroyed their enemies entirely, but chose temporary disablement instead. Near Earth, the Coalition attack fleet was met by the 10 Supernova ships. The aliens, seeing what had happened at Jupiter, realized they had lost. Their gamble had failed. 3 days later, representatives from all species involved gathered on a neutral space station to discuss terms. The Concord was officially dissolved, replaced by a new galactic alliance with humanity as a founding member. The technology that powered our fleet will be shared with our allies, Ambassador Greg Porter announced. But safeguards will ensure it cannot be used for aggressive purposes by any species. The Zilari and their closest allies faced restrictions on military development, but were not excluded from the new alliance. Humanity had won, but did not seek revenge. 1 month later, Captain Frank Delgado stood on the bridge of the Defiance, once again. But this time his mission was different. The ship had been refitted for exploration rather than war. "Course set for the Galactic Rim, Captain," Lieutenant Olivia Jackson reported from her station. "We're ready to see what's beyond." Frank smiled. "Let's go find out." Behind them, 5 other vessels followed, 3 human supernova ships and 2 crewed by alien allies. The fleet that had been built for war was now leading humanity's return to exploration. At Luna Command, Admiral Kathy West watched them depart. "That's who we really are," she said to Ambassador Porter, who stood beside her. "Builders and explorers, not just warriors." "The aliens weren't ready for humans," Greg replied. "Not because of the technology we developed, but because they underestimated humanity's capacity to both fight fiercely and forgive completely." Kathy nodded. "Let's make sure the universe never makes that mistake again." As the exploration fleet disappeared into the depths of space, humanity looked to the future, not as a minor player in galactic politics, but as architects of a new era. The supernova fleet, once built in desperation, now carried the best of human spirit to the stars.